Taylor's the brain, the expert, the guy. Matty's got jokes and a wild ride. 30 minutes, no time to spare. Stack your lineup, win anywhere. NFL Coach Halfa, get your edge, get faster. Taylor leads, Matty's laughter. NFL SuperCoach Halfa.
For the Aussie Gridiron Network, welcome Supercoaches to the NFL SuperCoach Halfa. I'm Matty C, and we have had a big July, but this is the month. It is like Christmas and your birthday and Easter all wrapped into one, because we are drafting every league in draft versions of NFL Fantasy this month. No finer person to talk to about how to go about this, especially with tonight's category of player, than the finest fantasy analyst in the whole land. It's Taylor Goodall.
I am back with Matty C, and the fact that the NFL season is so close fills me with glee. Let's go!
Can I tell you, I always get nervous when you finish on the first stanza on a sound. I don't know where you're going to go next, because to finish on Matty C, I just wasn't sure what you're going to rhyme with that. And Glee is nice. Glee is nice, but there's a lot of things that rhyme with Matty C that you could have gone to that wouldn't have been as nice. I was nervous.
I feel like I'm walking the plank in a little way. Like, even when we had the show with Jackson where I completely fucked up the start, I was like, you know what? I'm going to like walk on the edge of a tightrope and like only come up with the rhyme like a minute before we start recording. Like, I used to like fully prep it and like write it down and stuff like that. Whereas now I'm like, let's just see what bullshit comes to my mind at the last second. And that's what came to my mind, Matty C. So I'm hoping the viewers like it.
It's a rare look behind the curtain of the inner workings of our finest analyst. I'm glad you took us there, mate. What a way to start. We've had a great month, though. We did the quarterback rankings. Did you know that quarterback ranking show has been the most listened to thing on the entire Aussie Gridiron Network this preseason? I'm really proud of that. It was a really great show. And then last week we did some running backs as well, and it has been super well received. I don't think we've finished seeing people get the information out of that episode yet. I think we're going to end up with people who go back and listen to it again. I think we've got a lot of folks who haven't picked that up yet because maybe their draft's not close enough. So I think we're doing a great job, mate. I think the nation is coming back and getting ready, and they're doing it with us, mate.
And I think we all know we're all getting excited for the classic release, and I think people are starting to jump on and get their bearings about which quarterbacks and running backs and stuff like that are, going to be relevant for fantasy this year. Obviously, we've talked about the differences between draft and classic, and then we'll obviously talk about that when we finally get a chance to unleash the classic show. But yeah, again, thank you so much for the support, all super coaches and people that aren't playing Supercoach that are just listening to us, that always have, for the draft content. Really means a lot for us, every single listen. So yeah, it's fantastic. The fact that we've got a game in Melbourne in September. There's just so many good things happening in Australia for NFL at the moment. We just cannot wait.
Including you, mate. You're one of the great things happening in this country around NFL. And but you actually brought up something really important there, and I think we probably need to sort of unmask this a little bit, is that it's no secret here. For the last 5 or 6 years, we've really largely worked in NFL fantasy and draft formats. Last year, with the announcement of the SuperCoach game, we kind of just cobbled that together quickly. This year, we know the importance of having content for both. So we're approaching this show. It's going to be one show with 2 episodes a week. How are we going to go to market with that? How are people going to know what to listen to for which version they're playing?
Mate, last year was frantic as fuck is the best way that I'm going to say it. Like, it was SuperCoach NRL Unleashed, and I came up with a concept in about, 4 hours after they released it of what we could possibly take to market, because it was just such a great opportunity. A ready-made, amount of fantasy players wanting to listen to NFL content that, other Americans and other countries, people aren't doing. So it was such a great opportunity for us, but we just felt like we had a knowledge base that would help super coaches out there. And we've already, felt that already from the feedback we've gotten from year one. So where the problem with that though was we were so set up for the draft show that it kind of took precedence in year one. And you and I were battling to find time to actually get the classic content out there, even though there were far more of you listening to that content and that we wanted to be there for you. It was really hard with you and I working and being fathers and trying to find that time to actually get it out there. There was solo pods, there was almost no pods, there was half pods. It was just an absolute nightmare for you and I.
Yeah,
But
it's
this
chaotic, mate.
year,
It's chaotic.
this year with the knowledge that it's actually happening all preseason coming up and the fact that we can plan for it, we definitely are making that a way bigger priority this season. And we're basically going to have the one draft show that and the one classic show that we're going to sort of film on the same night, and then we're going to get it out there at the appropriate times to make sure, and the exact same times each week. So you guys aren't sort of waiting around for it and asking for it. So I thought I'd just make that clear from the get go. You aren't going to have rando solo pods on Saturdays and stuff like that, unless it's
God.
complete calamity. But the idea is that, it'll be Matty C and I making sure that we're on the airwaves the exact same time each week.
Getting interesting because I've got a big overseas trip planned in the middle of the season. So,
We'll figure it out.
nothing quite like throwing some chaos in there, but we'll make it happen. I'll be in the UK for a little bit, so that'll be fun. But, mate, what's going to be really cool about it is that it is all mapped out. We have got space to really make sure we hone in on Classic because, mate, what we learnt last year is people are licking their chops for some good analysis on how to approach SuperCoach NFL because they've both existed before, but never together. And last year, thank God that you came up with that concept in 4 hours and we managed to get something together because already, and say this is something that came up through the week, is that with the expectation that SuperCoach Classic is about to get announced as reopened for this year, we've actually got a ton of feedback from all kinds of places and all sorts of ways. And a lot of it from people we just haven't even spoken to before saying, oh, God, I can't wait. And thank goodness you blokes are going to be around again this year. And, mate, I just feel really, really grateful anytime we get any feedback, but especially feedback like that was just, it really makes knowing that all the work that you put in to come with insights and things to share and ideas is so worth it and people are getting something out of it. It really just, it makes the whole thing so worthwhile.
And that's why we, gave that decent prize in year one. It's not like we'd seen a windfall of listeners and, that we did that, based off like years and years of people listening to the show. We kind of jumped in with 2 feet and made sure that we were giving a very, very good prize to the people that were listening. And it kind of happened after that you guys really, really supported us. And so we're going to constantly give that back to you guys. Like we aren't just going to, hold that back. We're going to make sure that we are doing the best thing for the listeners and trying to get the best content, the best prizes, and just trying to make this Supercoach thing work. So thank you again so much for listening, but we've only like skimmed the surface of what we can do in the Supercoach side of things.
It's just begun. This Rolling Stone has just started. Mate, talking of things that have just started, this year was the first year I've ever done this. Is I sat down, and this took me like 7 weeks to write. And you can tell because it's like longer than a shack stick. The ultimate draft resource I put together was the Fantasy Draft Doctrine. And it is humongous. So to read that on Substack, and I'd urge you to just go and bookmark it on Substack. It's got it's broken into pieces. It gives you really specific information around different positions, different strategies, and different information sources. Go and find that on Substack at Aussie Gridiron Network. But also it is available in podcast form. It was about 3 weeks ago that thing got released. It took about an hour to read it all out. But it is a really great draft resource. I'm very proud of it, and that's something I want to put out every year, right at the start of draft season, to give people some appreciation for some of the things they need to be thinking about and some of the trends they need to be keeping their eyes open for. It's not going to draft your league for you. It's not going to win your league for you. But the idea is just to get those gears greased, get you thinking in the right way to go and dominate your league. And the feedback I've had from that has been fantastic too. So thank you, everyone who supported me on that one. Not very much of a writer, but I've been trying this year and I appreciate all the support. We've been actually getting really great traction on the Substack. And Manjot is about to unleash a bunch there for previews of NFL teams. So just go and subscribe. It costs you nothing and you get a whole appreciation for stuff. It's not just fantasy related. It's also NFL related because at the bottom of it all, we are all NFL fans too. But tonight it is time to talk my favorite position, wide receiver. Tay, we talk about this little, and for those who haven't been around the show before, I was a wide receiver when I was a young bloke. Did you know?
No, I've never heard that, Matty. See, please tell the viewers more.
Oh my gosh. So I only played locally here in the ACT. I played for the Canberra team that doesn't exist anymore called the Astros. I was not super good either, but I tried my best. I'm only a little bloke. And I had a great time. It was the best team sport I ever played. I would urge anyone who's got a league near them, go and join a training and go and check it out. You may find that you've just found your favourite sport to play as well. But, mate, what it does is it gives me a big heart erection for wide receivers when it comes to fantasy. Because you and I, we're data guys. We're trends guys, but also I've already got this pre-baked in love for wide receiver. So it's night. This is a night for me, and I have gotten into some numbers. I've divvied it all up. I've got lots of insights to bring, and you've been kind of spruiking to me in the last 48 hours. Back in your box, Matty. I've actually done a whole bunch too, and I'm pretty keen to get into it.
Absolutely, mate. There's a couple of specific guys that have got higher than consensus that felt like I just wanted to bring a little bit extra for. But, mate, I might get out of your way, and I know wide receiver's a big knife for you. And, being one of the world's best wide receivers, what he played, self-proclaimed. I feel like you're going to want to chat shit about these guys.
Yeah, mate. I tell you, they retired the 80 jersey at the Astros, mainly because they retired every jersey because we have ended up defunct. But, mate, the 80 jersey, I don't know if people notice, I have it on the back of my chair every time we do a podcast. It's right here. It's still got my pads on it. And so it's my backrest. Keeps my lumbar support right, mate, because I'm in my mid-40s now, so I've got to do everything carefully, otherwise I get injured.
For
Mate, we're
any
gonna get
listeners
into
out there, when you look at a box score, the 8-0 is 8 targets, 0 catches. That's where the 80 comes from.
Stop it.
Who is this
Mate.
guy?
Mate, I know it's real grainy, but I'll bring up some footage of me flying down that sideline like a gazelle. A gazelle! With
Look, you played a lot more
sticky hands.
wide receiver than I ever did, so I can't really talk to you.
Oh, my God. And I'm not lying. The footage is really grainy. It is from 20 years ago. When I got into wide receiver earlier in the year in the stuff I wrote for Substack, I kind of broke them into some categories. And the one that mattered the most is the Kings, the guys who run wide receiver for fantasy. Between you and I, and largely the fantasy community of analysts at large, we kind of believe there's probably 4. And you can probably sprinkle them in however you like. You and I kind of feel like there's one guy who's top of that pack. You want to kick us off with a number 1 wide receiver in our fantasy rankings this year, and why?
Yeah, I had a pretty obvious one in both running back and wide receiver this year. I just think Jamar Chase is the one for me with a ball. And the funny thing was, you even saw last year, and I brought this up with Chase Brown in the running back position, where you lose Joe Burrow, and really it should be a complete death nail, and it was for Chase Brown for a long time. But somehow Jamar Chase was still dominant. He still had all these games with Joe Flacco where he was having 15, 18 targets and still getting it done, because the fact is talent just wins out, and that's what Jamar Chase brings. He's just a phenomenal talent. But then when you actually bring Joe Burrow in, you look at all the intangibles of what makes a fantasy, wide receiver work. A bad defense, an amazing offense, a wide receiver 2 in T. Higgins that can take pressure off you and take away some of the defensive pressure. So, if they sent everything to Jamar Chase, then T. Higgins would just eat, and they wouldn't be able to stop the offense anyway. So and even Chase Brown in the backfield, it being a very good pass catcher himself, you can't really just defend one person on this offense. So Jamar Chase, ever since he came into this league, he was underrated when he came out. Everyone thought he couldn't catch a ball that didn't have a fucking line on it. How ridiculous that sounds now. But you've seen all the stats. I don't need to go into them. I'm not going to, wax lyrical about Jamar Chase, because I feel like a lot of people are going to have him at 1. But I just feel like he's got a lot of what I look for. It's not just the talent. The talent's there. It's just got, like I said, the bad defense, the great offense. They're just going to be in shootouts all year, and he's got Joe Burrow to throw to him. So, mate, honestly, it doesn't take
a lot to see the benefits, right? And you don't need to sort of squint at him and wonder and decide whether you can stomach that horrible Bengals offensive line. Because to me, and this was something that I wrote about in the draft doctrine and something that was important to me around when I was talking wide receiver earlier in the year in these articles too, is that he doesn't live on an island. the Bengals, and you mentioned this beautifully too. It's that you can't take your eyes off him and then think that, you can't throw everything at him, but then you also can't take your eyes off him. So, like, he has 23 targets in one game last year from, Joe Flacco coming in first game, Thursday Night Football, just throws the hell out of it to Jamar Chase. So even when situations are terrible, there is enough going on that you cannot hyper-focus on Chase. And even if you wanted to, the other things will eat. So that then it draws you away from that. Like, even though the situation is not fantastic, the ecosystem does enough. And that's something that's going to come up a couple of times tonight when I talk about wide receivers I like and wide receivers I'm having a tougher time with. It's because wide receivers do need the ecosystem in a way that a running back kind of has different pressures. A quarterback kind of has other stuff to think about. Tight end, they've got their own value, but a wide receiver is very dependent on some of these other things to click. And even though the Bengals, you start with, bottom 3 offensive line for run blocking and bottom 5 for pass blocking, and it's somehow this is still an excellent place to have a number 1 fantasy wide receiver come from, because it breaks the mold. I love Jamar Chase, number 1. We're expecting him to have over 170 targets this year, 1,500 yards, double-digit touchdowns. It is tough to go past him as number 1. But where I have seen people do that, they've done it for Puka. Puka's all right. Don't mind Puka.
I don't. Again, you're almost better off doing devil's advocates on these guys, because like everyone knows how fucking good they are. Like, we don't have to sit there and like talk about how awesome they are. I brought this up last year where I felt like Devontae Adams was going to lead the league in touchdowns, which was kind of insane at the time. Just picking a wide receiver 2 on his own team to lead the league in touchdowns seemed crazy, but it's never really been Puga's game. Like, he's kind of been that guy that's almost dominated between the 20s. It's like there's still 80 yards of field to dominate. It's still very good for fantasy. He's just not getting that like high-end stuff with the touchdowns. He's still having very decent years with the touchdown side paired with dominance in those 80s. So that's why he's always going to be in that top 5, like with a bullet. Like, there's no point not ranking him in there. I just had enough reason to believe that Jamar Chase has a higher ceiling than Puka. You also look at the Rams as a whole. Their defense only got better. Is there going to be some games where they're not really needing anyone in that second half when they're up 17-3 and Myles Garrett's just fucking destroying someone, destroying the quarterback for the 8th time this game? Like, I don't know. I just had reason enough. And like, we're talking about the tippy top, right? Like, I have him at 2. It's just not like that I think he's a bad pick or anything like that. I just am talking about the reasons why I had Jamar Chase a little bit higher. I just feel like because of that, like, baseline of the bad defense and the shootouts and things like that, I just feel there's more reason to believe that Jamar Chase is always going to be playing out a full 4 quarters. Whereas there's a chance that Puka might be having some rests, in the middle of the 3rd and at the end of the 4th. So that's really all I could really bring it down to.
Yeah, and like, I think the thing that Puka has kind of going against him too is that while the Rams are the best offensive line for rushing, they're the 24th best for pass blocking, and I just don't think that's it's a knock on him in the slightest way, because he doesn't do his damage by being the 60-yard bomb over the top guy, and he also doesn't need to score the touchdown, because his volume is so great. He's kind of got that Cooper Kuppness about him where he doesn't actually have to score the touchdown, and when he does, he goes from being darn good to being excellent. But man, he doesn't really have the Jamar Chase games where Jamar Chase can drop a 45. He can just drop a 45. Puka's done it once in his life, and I think we might have already seen the best game of his fantasy career. I don't know that we've seen the best game of Jamar Chase's fantasy career. I actually don't. And that, to me, is enough of a separator. And this is what separates Jamar from the rest of this top 4 for me, because the next couple of guys, and I'm going to draw you on these too, is that you got Amon-Ra and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Most people are putting them, Smith-Njigba as number 3, Amon-Ra as number 4. But mate, I know this guy who did it the other way around. Why do you reckon he did that?
If I was picking wide receivers I like, Jason would be number 1. For anyone that's been in a bunch of dynasty leagues for me or a while, they know my fucking feelings about JSN. I was never more all in on a wide receiver prospect my entire life. Like, it was like
That's
literally
true.
after his
That's
rookie
true.
season, and he still had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in front of him. And I'm just like, I've never been more sure that this guy's going to be a success. He's literally in every single one of my dynasty leagues except for basically one. And that one is because fucking Pete Neal took him. And I was in a situation where I didn't have any picks, and I was winning titles at that time. I didn't have any picks. So I'm not going to hate on that. I just thought I'd bring that up. But
Up yours, Pete Neal, is all I heard there.
Cam, we're talking about the tippy top of wide receiver, and you're really, really fucking like you're picking the smallest things out of detail to why you would pick one guy over another. I look at the defense of Seattle, and it's only probably gotten stronger. And you look at last year, they actually had one of the lowest pass rates in the NFL. And yes, you could say, all right, well, JSN had an amazing year, even in a small passing, outage. Isn't there a chance that he's even better this year? But the problem is I only see this defense getting better, and I feel like there's going to be more opportunities where this team's just fucking doing nothing in the second half again. I do worry that maybe things were almost too efficient for JSN last year. Like, he was so good, and he is so good. But is there a chance that he has like a 5 to 10% drop off from last year because of the efficiency and something that he just can't sustain? Maybe. Like, I'm not guaranteeing it. And there's a chance he has a year like he did last year and he still finishes at 4, like I've got him ranked. I'm not saying he has some ridiculous fall off, or Seattle does. I love Seattle. I think they're going to be in the, in the conference final game again. But I just am a little bit worried that with that defense and how amazing it is there more lower scoring games? And I don't know. Like, look, Sam Darnold was amazing. He's been a phenomenal story the last couple of years. But I still don't look at Sam Darnold as this amazing reason why I feel like his wide receiver one's going to dominate in fantasy. There's still a eking thing in the back of my head where I'm like, is JSN not got the biggest flaw compared to the other guys? Like, we're going to bring up who I have ranked at 3. It's literally because of the flaw. Like, I just don't know if JSN's flaw is as good as this other guys, just because I feel like this other guy could have like literally 10 catches every fucking game. He's not going to have this high ceiling as JSN, but he's going to just have 10 catches every fucking game. And his defense is decent. It's just not quite as good as Seattle's. So that's honestly what I looked at. But again, the words I was looking for is we're splitting hairs. We're splitting hairs between the top 4. The top 4 are with a bullet. I was never going to rank anyone outside of these 4 in the top 4. And if you came to me and said, JSN's your number 1, I'm not going to fucking hate it.
Yeah, I can attest to this JSN love. It has been wild and passionate and steamy since the very minute that JSN got drafted, even though he was going to Seattle, which at the time was kind of a situation of flux. Gino was there, and now Darnold went there, and I don't think people were really sure what Darnold was going to do, and all of a sudden JSN, 160 targets, and away he goes. I also have him at 4. Not everyone's got that. Every major site we saw has him at 3, and you and I both put him behind Amon-Ra, and I also stand by that. I feel like I probably should give you space to talk about it, because I think you're just going to say all the things I'm going to say anyway, and I prefer listening to you.
It's as I was already alluding to, I just think he's got a better baseline. And if I'm looking outside that Jamar Chase, Puka, range, every year I've taken Amon-Ra, I've never been displeased. Like, put it that way, he's just so dominant in that offense. And because you've got guys around him like your Jamos and even like the Porters, they're always just so random. They're always like a complementary piece to Amon-Ra. He's just so consistent. There is no more consistent wide receiver in this league. He's just always 8 catches, 9 catches, 10 catches. Like, it might not have the upside. It might not have a touchdown in it. It might be 10 for 80. It might be 9 for 78. And you're just like, oh no, I'm in a PPR league and I got 17.8 out of Amon-Ra this week. Fuck.
What a terrible week.
It's like he is so consistent with that route running. He gets the consistent, like what you want to call slant routes. Like, he gets the close stuff. He can stretch out if he needs to, but he's very, very close to the line of Goff. And we've already done the O-line analysis where they aren't amazing at pass blocking, but they're amazing at running blocking. So you need that wide receiver one that's good in the intermediate routes, because Goff's got to get the ball out quick when he's passing. And that's why I feel like there's way more consistency out of Amon-Ra than, say, Jamo. because Goff doesn't always have a ridiculous amount of time to throw. So it's like, I just feel like Amon-Ra is so consistently good that I just had the slightest concern that if that Seattle defense is this amazing again, if anything gets better, there is just going to be that many games where they don't need JSN. Whereas I feel like Detroit is like, even with Aiden Hutchinson and that defense looking a bit better with guys coming back, they're always kind of going to be that like second tier of defense, and they're always going to need the offense a bit more. So that is literally the hairs that I've split between this third and fourth, but I've just decided that I'm going to have Amon-Ra and Jays.
And I also, Amon-Ra gets a touchdown a little bit more than JSN does, and I'm fine with that too. So it's those things, as we say, these are the kings. You pay up for the kings. That is what you do. And all of these four, there is not a single one of them that's a bad investment. And I find these tricky too, because people will be like, how do you rank this guy above that guy? Oh my God, how come this guy's all the way down here? And I think once you go through the process and we've been doing this for years. Once you personally go through the process of taking every wide receiver available to you and writing them out in a list and then trying to work out which one you prefer over who, you'll surprise yourself with who you have pretty high and who you have pretty low. And then you look at the number against some of these guys, you go, how do I have this guy that low? And then you look up and go, well, I can't put him in front of that guy. Well, I can't put him in front of that guy. And it is an extremely difficult process. A rewarding one. I challenge anyone to give it a go. But at the top, I think the 4 are set, and then the 5th, almost unilaterally, is CeeDee Lamb, and I'm okay with that. You're okay with CeeDee Lamb at 5?
This is why when doing drafts, it's important to do tiers. And it's almost like, I don't know how you want to do it. If you want to put it as A tiers or B, one is 2 and 3, giving them a number out of 100. I don't know how exactly you want to do it. But the reason is I just split hairs between 4 guys. I may have Jamar Chase as 100 and Puka's 99, and it's like these top 4 guys might be all a 98 out of 100 or better. And then I might have CeeDee Lamb at 94, and then I can go, all right, well, here's my tier break, because I might have running backs that I consider 97 out of 100 or 98 out of 100, and I'm going to draft them ahead of this guy. So I just wanted to give you that little draft tip of like, yes, I've ranked JSN at 4, but it doesn't mean like I'm dropping him like way out of the 4. I just have him slightly ahead behind those guys, and I might still have him ahead of running backs that I have at running back 3. You know what I mean? It's just you've really got to just have a look at those tiers. And what's funny with wide receiver is I personally have those top 4 guys in a tier, and then I kind of have Lamb almost in his own tier. Like I kind of feel like he just is universal 5. Like I'd be surprised if anyone had anyone over him. And I do feel like it's really pick your poison after this. So he's a funny one where it's like, I really can't put him in that top 4. Like I there's plenty of reasons to believe that, say Pickens, there's literally questions about who's even the one on this team. I don't have those questions. And the good thing is Lamb has like literally some of the same exact attributes that Jamar Chase is at number 1, where it's amazing talent, bad defense. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say. I wouldn't say Dak at this point of his career is as good as Burrow, but he's not far off. Like, I think he's a very good player. Like, I think he gets a lot of shit and for some of the playoff performances and stuff. But we're not playing in the playoffs. We're playing fantasy. And the fact is, Dak actually is a very, very competent and good quarterback. So this offense is going to be very good again. The only thing is, like, Pickens, like, kind of weirdly seems to be like infringing on Lamb more than, say, Higgins seems to be infringing on Chase. I don't agree with. I personally think Higgins is just as good as a wide receiver as Pickens is, if not maybe slightly better. A lot of other people kind of lost their minds after what we saw from last year. So don't hold. This is my kind of outcry to everyone. Don't hold Pickens against Lamb. If anything, it just makes the offense better. And when both of them on the field, Lamb to me is still the 1. You're just going to have a little bit less consistency from him because Pickens is there, because there might be that random game where Pickens just goes off. But Lamb to me is still the 1 on the team. So you've got a great offense and a bad defense. Take the 1 on that team. I just think he's the wide receiver 5. I'll say with a bullet.
And I think
I've been using that term a lot.
Well, and I think Pickens was so volatile last year, but he also benefited from Lamb missing time, and then inflated his overall finish in a way that I just don't know that you can predict that same thing happening again. I do like that Pickens gets some volume, but to me, it's Lamb. He's, to me, a tier of his own at 5. I don't know that you can put him above any of the guys that we've got above him, but I certainly don't think you put any of the guys after that we're about to speak about above Lamb. And 100%, I completely agree with you that you can't ignore Pickens, but I don't think there's a question about which of these two is the one on that team. Here's where I am desperate to get into, because I think from here, this is where it really becomes, that those 5 are kind of the ones you pay up for. You know you're going to get great return from them. But the next guys, there's a bunch of solid rocks, like people you can really still build on. But now each of them really have some bigger wrinkles, or are being left behind because maybe people aren't looking at their upside enough. I'm going to go here, Tate. There's so many ways I can go here, but I'm going to go with consensus across major sites puts Justin Jefferson next. I'm still sore from last year with God. Justin Jefferson. Oh my God.
You are so sore. Your rectum is wrecked.
So why half the word is wreck in rectum. I am terrified of Justin Jefferson this year, not because I don't think he's an excellent wide receiver. It's because he's got this new quarterback again. His season last year, I spent the whole time waiting for the magic to start. It never started. And he's got a fragile ecosystem. If you took every NFL player that you can draft in fantasy and put them in a list, or one combined list of who you thought were the most valuable, Jefferson would be the only one in the top 50. Cool. Who's next? I don't even know where you go next. He is alone trying to drag that truck. He's a lot like the A-Chan from Miami is going to be at running back position. To me, Justin Jefferson is the exact same product, but in a wide receiver on a team where I don't know where the rest of the ecosystem is. And I'm terrified about it. He's still projecting for 166 targets, over 100 catches, some strong weekly volume. But mate, he was projected for all that last year too, and it hurt. So I'm really nervous about him. He's at 6. I've got him down at 8. There's just a few guys who I don't think have as many problems as him. You're also a little down on him compared to 6. You've got somebody else ahead, which we'll talk about in a sec. But I'm still smarting a bit.
He's the guy that's almost universally, in the fantasy community, just being like forgiven. Like he had the most ridiculously shit year last year. To his credit, he never came out and like bagged the team or bagged the quarterback. He kind of was like the opposite to what a wide receiver is, not a diva. Like he kind of did the anti-AJ Brown. Like he just sort of took it. He took his lumps and just sort of moved forward with the feeling that things would be better this year. I personally am going to leap back in just because I'm taking last year as an outlier for, say, Kevin O'Connell. Like I was so in on Kevin O'Connell to a point where I just had never seen him fail with a quarterback. I'm going to probably use the 1-year sample size and probably put that on JJ McCarthy as it was his fault, because all I've seen outside of that is dominance from the quarterback position and dominance to Justin Jefferson. So there is enough reason to not rank him in this like top 4 or anything like that, because there are question marks. It's just really hard to like almost drop him further out of this like 7, 6, 8 range or whatever, because his talent is so proven. And it's like if Kyler Murray comes in, which we're all assuming, like we're already hearing all the, talk from camp that he looks way better than JJ McCarthy, even like some of the beat reporters that are like paid to make it seem like, there's a real quarterback competition. I was at a dynasty draft last week, live dynasty draft, and someone asked me about it. And I said, it's too obvious for what they've done with other guys. Like you look at like what they've done with Sam Darnold, who was considered like almost an outlier in the league. Even Daniel Jones, who was backing him up, who's gone on to other things. It's like they've done so much in this exact same situation that they're doing with Kyler. Like to bring him in, it's just like almost too perfect in a way. So I just think Kyler's given fantasy success to wide receivers before. And I feel like in this KOC offense, it feels hard that it's not going to work. They have a very good offensive line. They have a very good defense again. So that's another reason almost a feather not in his cap, because I feel like they're not going to have to score a shitload of points. And that Flores Flores defense is probably going to keep them in games if the offense is struggling. So I don't know if his upside is anywhere near, even if Kyle is good, anywhere near where it used to be. So we're probably ranking him near his ceiling. That's the problem. But so for draft, I'm probably with you. Like, I don't think I'm going to have a lot of him, because the upside probably isn't quite there for me. Whereas like Supercoach Classic that we'll get to, like, he is going to be a phenomenal pick in that based off the stats he gave you last year.
Oh
So
my God.
think of him as a bounce back candidate from last year, but the ADP is kind of caught up with that. It's not like you don't have a discount on Jefferson at all this year. So I'm a little bit worried about him at ADP and fantasy. But yeah, I do see the reasons why people are in.
Probably not going to own a lot of him, but you're probably going to own a lot of Rashid Rice.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna let you have a sip of that and say you've got him ranked at 6, and you have been really. And I love when you do this, Tay. You do this with a few players every preseason. Is you get out your direct line for why the person you get on is going to be successful. You hold that line the whole way through the preseason, and often by the time the season's done, you look back and go, "Oh, Devontae Adams pretty much led the league for wide receivers and touchdowns," because you had the facts, you had this proof, you had this pathway, and you did it. So I'm looking forward to this on Rice, because between Rice, Mahomes, and Kenneth Walker, you're really in on some facets of this Kansas City offense that I don't think that many people are in on. And here you are with Rice at 6.
I actually just did a draft with Jackson, who we had on the podcast a few weeks ago,
Hey,
where I took Rasheed in an auction draft, and I've been taking him pretty much in every single mock we have done. He's pretty much the Jadarian Price of the wide receiver position for me this year. I just have him as that next wide receiver after Lamb. Like I said, I don't have him in the tiers anything above the 5 position, but he's the highest one for me outside of that. And it's one of those ones where I just think it's all volume. Like, I just think it's literally him and Kenneth Walker in this Chiefs offense. And the way that Mahomes ran last year was because he was healthy, he was able to sort of run on third down and get all those third downs. I think this year he's not going to be able to do that, and it's going to be all in the passing game on third downs. And I feel like Rasheed Ross is just going to be his best friend. He's so good in those like sort of short intermediate routes that whenever Rasheed Rice is on the field, he's amazing. It's off the field that all the problems happen. So I'm doing like I do with CMC, and I'm literally ranking a guy based off what I've seen on the field, and he has phenomenal points per game when he's playing Patrick Mahomes, and all signs seem to be pointing towards Patrick Mahomes starting week 1. So yeah, I just feel like they're going to need him and Kenneth Walker so desperately in this offense that you're just going to see so many targets. I feel like he's just going to be like an Amon-Ra in this Chiefs offense. So I just feel there's no one else to take targets off him. You've got this ridiculously old Kelsey who's just come off a 1,200 person wedding to fucking Taylor Swift. Like, they really don't have a dominant person outside of him. So it's Rice or bust, honestly, in the passing game. So yeah, I just feel like he's too important to this Chiefs team to fail.
you just cut to Xavier Worthy being like, "The fuck did I do to you, man? What the fuck?" Who-
A drive-by.
And Xavier Worthy, I'm just gonna, we're not gonna get down to the absolute rocks at the bottom here, but he's we've actually got him ranked way down towards the 50s. Neither of us, I think he's going to be super consistent. So this is the thing: it's Rashee Rice is the passing game target. I've got Rashee Rice at 12 in consensus ranks across big sites. He's closer to 10, so I'm a bit cooler than consensus. You're hotter, and I like that because you often will do this. You'll take a guy and you have your conviction, you'll have done the research, you'll have done the thinking on it, and then as the season plays out, you often turn up to be right. And I love when you do that, Tay. It is good radio. The next guy on our list, though, and I like this because I'm pretty high on this guy too, is that Drake London comes in across consensus sites at about 7, and I've got him at 6. Tay, you're much cooler. Can I give you my case for Drake London?
Go for it.
Yeah, okay. Look, considering all the malarkey that went on at Atlanta last year, Drake London still continue to be really consistent, really, really consistent. And even when there were the days later in the year where we saw Kyle Pitts kind of emerge a couple of times, and the times he emerged big. But Drake London, super consistent in there. I always felt nervous in a week where I was up against an owner with Drake London. And I understand too that now, okay, so what's the malarkey at quarterback like this year? I just believe it's going to be Tua's job and Tua's going to run with this. And he is extremely proficient in that short to medium area. This is exactly where Drake London eats. He is not the 60-yard bomb down the field guy. And to me, that offense is going to be absolutely centered around that running game with Bijan Robinson and Drake London being the target number one. There is no second target there. It's going to be Drake London. And I am fine with that because I've seen it happen, and I've seen it happen in much unfriendlier ecosystems. This ecosystem's still not perfect, but I'm now recycling things that I've seen and know to be true. I'm going to keep him there firmly in my top 10. I know that you're a little cooler and you're actually outside the top 10. You're seeing a couple of ripples. You're worried?
Yeah, it's the Tua-led offense, honestly, for me. Like, we had Mike McDaniel, running this like high-powered offense with the two very quick wide receivers and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and I just don't see that at Atlanta. Like you are right. Tua's pretty good at like hitting the intermediate routes, and it's good that London's a big receiver, so he doesn't need separation to get a catch. Like he can obviously, get up and get there like a big T. Higgins or something like that to get his to get his catches, but I don't know. I just don't see a high-powered offense here, and it just worries me. And it's like, well, we're picking three guys here in this passing game, essentially hot in fantasy. My worry is that all of them are just going to split. I don't think Bijan, like I picked Bijan at 3, and I'm just going to get hammered like on this Bijan hater. He's going to have lots of catches, and then that's going to have a ripple effect on London. And then I also feel like London's going to have a ripple effect on Pitts because Pitts's like best games were when London wasn't there. So it's like, I know we're not talking about tight end tonight, but it's like, I almost feel like the 3-pack all there, they almost need one of them not to be there to be dominant in the
San
passing
Francisco
game.
problem, right?
Especially with a Tua-led offense, right? Like I just don't see Tua passing for more than like maybe just over 200 yards in a game. He might have games where he passes for less. You might end up having Cooper Rush in there because Penix and Tua aren't, healthy. I've seen worse third-string tight ends than Cooper Rush, but I just don't trust the offense at the moment. Their defense is like slated to be middle of the pack, so it's not like they're going to be horrendous on that side of the ball. Like, so is there going to be times where they can try and win games 20-17? Maybe. I don't know. It's enough again. Like with a guy like London, I have him in my top 12. I have him as a wide receiver 1. It's just splitting hairs where I'm like, I have reasons why I like the other guys in that range more than him. And like you said, you've got him at, in that sort of 6-7 range. And that's kind of where he's going in ADP. So it just means I'm not going to have any of him. And that's just how I'm going to have to live. But yeah, I just don't trust the offense.
And we both do that because across the next few guys, and I like what you've said there. I'm still very happy that their defense is not good enough that they're still going to need offense, and that's kind of part of my comfort. But in this next range, we get guys like AJ Brown. He's sort of between 8 and 10 everywhere. We're about the same. Nico Collins, kind of similarly, but I'll come back to you on Nico Collins very briefly. Garrett Wilson's in that range. You've got him inside the 10. I've got him just outside the 10, but he's pretty well slated for just being outside the 10 as well. So there's a lot of guys in this range that we're all pretty comfortable with their value.
Can I quickly talk about Garrett?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about Garrett because I think that the Jets have been such a weird team, and here you are with him inside the 10, everyone's out. But then I need to get your Nico takes. So do you want to go bang bang on these two?
Yep. So I went digging for some data on Garrett because like he's been this guy that's just he was like the old Terry McLaurin where it was just like he's had the worst, or DJ Moore, sorry, was probably better.
Yeah.
Better comparison where his fucking quarterback situation has been an absolute disaster his entire career. And I watch him and he's just a phenomenal talent that just cannot get it right or any connection with his fucking quarterback. And I was just going through the stats and I'm like, well, he's got Geno coming over, right? And a lot of people aren't going to look at Geno off his like season he had last year as this like amazing quarterback. But if there's anyone that Geno is an upgrade for, it is Garrett fucking Wilson. Like, have you seen the numbers that he has been dealing with? So I actually decided to have a think about some of the Jets quarterbacks that were playing with Garrett Wilson. I was like, who's a guy that, like, if I named him, you wouldn't be like, that's a reach saying that Gino's going to be as good as him, but you also were the other side and were like, well, that guy's kind of shit. Like, it's not even too far. I was looking at Tyrod Taylor's numbers with him, and Tyrod Taylor literally is the best passer Garrett has ever played with
Oh,
outside of Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers had Devontae Adams at that point, so you couldn't even take the numbers for what they were fucking worth because his bum fucking buddy in Devontae Adams was there taking away at least half of the snaps. So
yeah,
I
okay.
wanted to look into the numbers with Tyrod with him. The problem was the sample size was way smaller than I actually realized. I
God.
really thought that Tyrod Taylor played more games, but I found when he started in week 3 against the Buccaneers last year, 13 targets, 10 receptions, 84 yards, 1 touchdown. He also played 1 quarter in a later game where Justin Fields had passed for 27 yards in the first 3 quarters combined, and then Tyrod came in and threw for 54. And in that game, Garrett Wilson had 62% of the total yardage of the team. This obviously isn't stats that you're going to go, well, I've got to go draft Garrett Wilson, but it's proof of the concept that this guy has been dealing with absolute shot. I'll also give you some numbers around Gino. Gino went into last year averaging 260 yards per game before he went to Oakland. If you take Oakland's year last year, where he didn't have a single fucking wide receiver to pass to, he only had Brock Bowers, but Brock Bowers is fucking injured and they had no offensive line. He was getting destroyed the entire year. He still threw for over 200 yards a game, but he also kept his yards per game over the last 4 years at 238.2. What do you think Fields was at? He was at 158. Like, it is such
Well,
a
that's
massive
Tannehill numbers.
of a difference between what he is dealing with now. You also look at the Jets, they've got the 13th best pass blocking offensive line, but in the mid-20s in run blocking. So they are a far better offensive line at protecting Gino than they are protecting, say, Breece Hall running the ball. I am just so all in on this team being the best setup for Garrett Wilson. Again, I know it's Gino. I'm not sitting here on a fucking hill saying Gino is this amazing quarterback. But if you look at the complete assholes Garrett Wilson has played with in the past, Gino looks like fucking king. He looks like Josh Allen out there, like compared to what he's been dealing with. So I just cannot believe the numbers. Like Garrett Wilson still was 17th in points per game in fantasy last year with Justin Fields. Like he was having games where he was throwing for under 100 yards. Like, and he didn't even have I think he played 7 games or 8 games or something like that. So I don't know. I just don't see the downside in Garrett. I feel like he's getting ranked at his almost floor. I really do feel like the way that the Jets are set up, he's getting like the stink of the Jets on him, and that's why he's getting ranked where he is. I honestly think he's going to be one of the biggest steals of the draft. If Geno stays healthy and he does, I honestly am calling right now that Garrett Wilson is the biggest steal of the draft this year.
Hey. And I thought
Cheers.
your Rashi Rice was pretty full on and you're pretty hungry there. But wow. All I could think about too was, that meme that goes by with the Reaper just knocking on every door and then there's blood underneath it. I'm just wondering how long that fucking corridor is at the Jets. And that's, poor Garrett Wilson. Mate, it is tough as a wide receiver on a team where you can't move the ball. I've been on a team like that myself, and that it is difficult. You're running a lot of routes and the ball's not coming to you, and you're exhausting yourself for what feels like nothing, and it is very tough to stay really positive and focused. And mate, he is currently being ranked across major sites in toward the middle of wide receiver 2, anything from about 13 to 15. Got him at 9.
He was wide receiver 17 with Justin Fields, Matty C.
It's amazing.
Justin Fields. Clip this and put it on our buddy Instagram. He was wide receiver 17 in points per game with Justin fucking Fields.
Justin Fields. Oh my God. It sounds like he was just in Fields by himself because that ball wasn't coming nearly as much as it should have.
field of dreams, my ass. Field of nightmares, more like it.
Field of arse. That's a bit more our show speed. Mate, that's an impassioned speech. It's not quite the Gettysburg Address, but I think people will be reciting this for years to come. So well done. But on a very similar, like, chest-banging moment, but it seems like almost at the other end of it, how come the world likes Nico Collins as good as being a fringe top 10, and you have got him, like, buried at 16? It's not even about the number. It's about the emotion. Like, there's a reason you've done that. Got to hear it.
It's the biggest, like, chasm. How many times we go chasms? But
Chasm!
The old chasm between, like, real on the field talent and just the situation. Like, I brought this up. Was it last year or the year before where I just kind of got really cold feet? I think it was last season where I had him, like, ranked 4th or 5th. And I kind of changed my mind. I ended up changing them to sort of like wide receiver 10 or 11, just because I was worried about the offense. I was just worried in general about Texans offense. The offensive line was fucked. Like they needed time to get Nico open, and that I just didn't feel like the offensive line was going to do it. I had my concerns about Stroud, and they were right. Like he just didn't have the same connection with Nico that he did the year before. Nico, again, like this ranking I almost guarantee will be wrong. Like Nico's so good that he'll work himself into probably being on the edge of that top 12. But I just feel like in this range, I have the other guys that I like better. And I just kind of almost portrayed that in my ranking where I'm like, you know what, I'll just put him at 16 because I'm never going to have him because he's always going to get drafted to that wide receiver 10, 11, 12 range. I just have concerns. This Texans team is slated to be the best defense in the NFL this year. They are not going to be in shootouts at all. They do not need Stroud to be this dominant player. They need him to be better than he's been, but they don't need him to be phenomenal, like to win games. They have Will Anderson. They have this, D'Amico Ryans as the coach. They are going to be a low-scoring, grinded-out team. They're never going to be in shootouts. So I just don't see fantasy gold from this team. I think I've talked about David Montgomery. I've got him ahead of ADP because I think they're going to be ahead of games that defense are going to be running the ball out. It's another reason why Nico's going to be like almost touchdown or bust in a way, which sucks because I love the player. I'm not super high on him in redraft this year at where he's going. And that's why I said I'm not burying him. I'm putting him at 16 and that's just lower than ADP. And that's just how I have to play my fantasy this year.
I'm going to rebut this might be in shootouts thing. Shootout, people say that like it's, 44-38 kind of games. And the Texans don't play those sorts of games. The one game they had around week 10 where they scored a bunch of points was that Jags game. The Jags led 29-10. They blew it. Okay, whatever. But the Jags scored 29 that day, right? And then all of a sudden there was this narrative from week 11 onwards. The Texans are amazing. Oh, my God. So they beat the shitty Titans 16-13 in what essentially turned into a shootout because someone had to score last. The Bills 19-23 in essentially a shootout because someone had to score last. The Colts, who didn't have Dan Jones, which is an amazing thing to say that's something that's going to hurt a team, but the Colts are amazing, and then they didn't have Dan Jones and they were terrible. 20-16 in a game which was a shootout. Someone had to score last in a close game. Yeah, they beat the Chiefs, but by that stage, Mahomes was hurt. Minshew was hurt, and I don't even know the name of the guy who was starting now. Olakan? I can't remember his name. And they beat them in a 2-score game. Good on you, Texans. Held that shitty Chiefs offense to 10. Well done. You deserve a medal for that. They let the Cardinals score 3 touchdowns on them. So I don't know if this defense is as amazing as people think. And then they won this horrible 21-23 game against the Raiders. But people are so keen to anoint them as this incredible defense. And it's schedule. It is schedule. And I understand that PFF have got a lot to back up why they think this defense is as good as it is. I just don't think it's as good a point-scoring defense as people think it is. They might have other statistical drivers that do that. Point scoring is not one of them because their offense can't move the ball either. And if you get into a game where as soon as there's a few points on the board and the Texans have to promote that ball, where's it going? It's going to Nico Collins.
Problem is of everything you just said was their offense didn't score even in those games. So that's my biggest problem is even in like games that are slated to be better for Nico Collins and Stroud in the offense, they still can't fucking score. Like it's that's what worries me is like, okay, you can make the claim that the defense isn't as good that I said, but the offense clearly still isn't fantastic. Like it's like you're going to get an amazing defensive game. Like I'd like be interested to see how their defense went in the first 10 weeks before you brought up those stats. It's almost like they played to as good as how the other side plays, and it's like, okay, the defense wasn't fantastic in that game where they gave up 3 touchdowns to Arizona or whatever. Okay, but the fucking offense just got
And the
23.
Raiders.
It's like I don't know. I find it really hard to trust anyone, especially as going high in the Texans offense at the moment. Like I said, I don't mind Montgomery because I don't mind the value of him just being a starter for a team that's decent, that's going to run the ball in the second half. But I'm more worried about the passing game of the Texans, given what I believe is slated to be a very good defense over an entire season. They'll have their off games. But I'm worried about the consistency of their wide receiver one when they have games where they're probably going to keep the other team to 1 to 2 touchdowns. So
They're an 8-9 team in Lions clothing. They
that's
are,
fine.
and what I like about it though is that they're going to have teams scoring them because even the shit teams scored 3 touchdowns on them last year, and the ones that didn't were missing their quarterback. It's not going to be the case this year. Texans, man, they may squeak in as a playoff team. I don't know that they will, and I'm fine to stick my chin out on that now.
I'll almost give you if Nico plays most of the season, I'll give you a guarantee he beats my ranking. It's just
Yeah.
like I said, there are just things I look for when I'm drafting players, and I'm like, he might have games at the end of the year where the defense all of a sudden has a couple of off games and he just has a massive one, and it just makes his like season look like it's better. I still prepare my drafts based off like I talked about Scatterboo on the
Yeah.
running back for situation. I'm picking guys that I think are going to have very good starts to the season. I like to work it out later. I'm not looking at guys that
Yeah.
I'm going to draft and then go, shit, I feel like this guy might be good from week 11 onwards. Oh, great. I'm 0-10. Fucking, it's going to be amazing for me when I'm that. It's like, I would rather be trading for those guys than picking in my draft. So I'm just worried that like over a season, yes, Nico might spit out as wide receiver 11 or 12. I'm just worried with this defense and the situation with Stroud that it's just not going to be as like consistent or great as you want when you're taking him in the 3rd round.
Yeah. And I reckon this is one I've circled already to be like, we're just going to check back on this in about week 8 or 9 and see whether the Texans are one of the greater point-scoring defenses or not, or whether their offense is forced to score points to try and keep them winning half their games. Like, I think that's something that's going to be a really worthwhile thing to go back on. And because, and I love this, we don't agree on everything. To me, that's one of the best bits about doing this show is that we don't agree on everything. And there's a couple further down here. I think we largely agree on Devonta Smith being fairly good and George Pickens being fairly good. They're kind of guys in the next range. And we definitely agree on T. Higgins being good. You think he's going to be quite good. He's ahead of Pickens. And you mentioned that earlier. Like, well, they're probably similar, but Higgins has got more guarantees around him. You like him more. I know I don't think that's super controversial either. I've got those two pretty close to each other. Devontae Adams is in the same range as well, but we actually both like him more than consensus. But the one guy I thought was super interesting in this range, because I'm higher and you're lower, is Malik Neighbors. Am I all of a sudden a Giants fan? I like Scatterby more than you. I like Neighbors more than you. Do I need my head checked?
No, you don't. My ranking's more about the just knowledge that he isn't fully healthy. Like there's like, all this footage around that he is out there. There's just worry and concern that even if he starts in week 1, he's just not 100%. And it's enough for me to just sort of put him down in that range. Like, again, if he starts week 1 and plays the whole season, there's no way he's finishing at wide receiver 19 or wherever I have him at.
You got him at 19, I got him at 14.
I'm ranking him more at like where I would look at drafting him. And I just feel like the other dudes around that area have far less like injury concerns off the bat. Like I know anyone can get injured at any time, but it's like, I'm just like, I'm worried that like all of a sudden he has one setback and he's on the pup for the first 4 weeks. And all of a sudden you don't even have a wide receiver the first 4 weeks. So it's just hard for me to rank him like sort of in that top echelon of wide receiver 2 when that's the case. This really isn't a concern on the player at all or the situation really at all either. It's like, if anything, he lost Wandale, which a lot of people look at that like it's nothing, but Wandale like actually was a target hog in that offense. So like, if anything, there's a chance that Neighbors when he's there is just going to be a bigger target hog than he ever was. So I've got no concerns about the player when he's fully healthy and when he's on this team. It's just a concern about his health and what he looks like. And again, when I talk about the way I draft, I just don't look at guys like this that I'm concerned about for the first 6 weeks because I'd rather be trading for those guys than drafting.
Yeah, and I like that. And mine, I really take as much of a lens as I can of who do I want to own and why do I own them, and that helps me inform my release. And I like that we have different philosophies because then you come to another one which is almost identical. Guy, I've got a 19. Guy, you've got a 15. Tederawa McMillan, and you've been pretty. You're not quite JSN level on Ted. But I mean, he's trying to get into that same club, man. We do have high hopes for the Panthers this year, though, right? This is part of it.
Yep. Yeah, this is very good offensive line passing. Not really much competition. I know, the cokeheads, Jalen Coker, are gonna complain about this, but I really do feel like Tet is just the complete package at the wide receiver 1 position. The biggest question mark's always Bryce. Like, I get it. Like, there's always a chance that Bryce is going to throw for under 200 yards in any moment as well. But I just feel like this team's kind of growing. Dave Canales, being an ex-OC, I feel like the offense is just getting better and better each year. The defense, as much as it looks like it's better than last year, it's still not amazing. So they can't just lean on their defense to win games. They have to score. They're a playoff team from last year. So anyone kind of looking at this team like they're terrible, I don't think they realized that they were actually quite good last year. Like, it's a weird feeling. So, Connor Wilson will fucking love it. Shout out Connor.
8, 9, 9, and 8. I mean,
I know, but it's still better than what people think. Like, I think people think of the Panthers when you're talking about it being this like 5 and 11 or 5 and 12 or whatever team. I don't feel like we should look at them that way. So the fact that Tet's the wide receiver 1 on this team of a very good offensive line, and I feel like a quarterback that's at least ascending. It might be ascending slowly, but it's at least he's heading in the right direction. So I don't know. I just feel like Tet's going to be the number 1 of a board on that team, and he's just going to get so much target volume. And again, like, he doesn't, to me, have the same exact problem that, say, Nico has with the defense, where they're not going to be in shootouts. So that's just where I slightly tip my hat to a guy like Tet. Yeah, I just feel like he's going to be very, very needed.
Love this because I think at this stage of the season, I'd look at that and go, oh, so I've got Malik Neighbors around about where you've got Tet. You've got Tet around where I've got Neighbors. Let's race them. And I know that that's not necessarily the smartest way to try and drum up a water bet because you go, yeah, but if they finish wide receiver 3 and 4, aren't we both right? But I still want to race you anyway. Do you want to just do a Tet versus Neighbors race?
Let's go for it.
Whoever finishes top?
Yep.
You want to do it? What about it?
Yep, let's go.
I've been desperate to get one on the board with you, mate. Malik Neighbors. Come on, brother. Jesus Christ.
This is where I'm like, yeah. Come on, tweak it. Come on, tweak that injury. It's still not perfect for me because, like I said, I wasn't really anti-Neighbors. It was
You're not anti-Neighbors
thing, but yeah, I do like Tet, so I'm more than happy to take a shot on another guy that I've got ranked somewhere in there.
I mean, I'm 3 or 4 spots behind consensus. So I don't hate Tet either. You're just a bit higher. I'm a bit cooler. But anyway, no, this is kind of fun because it's kind of, we've got this opposite thing. So no. Thank you for playing with me, Tay. And God help me, I feel like I'm in car number 2 in that race to start with. But let's go. From here, I feel like we start leaving the solid rocks and we start getting into the value range. I'm not going to go through every guy here.
Is there someone we can go back to? I think we may have passed on that I just wanted to touch base on. It's someone I've talked about a lot, but I just sort of wanted to quickly touch on something else. Chris Olave. I've got him at 8. I'm super duper high. I don't think anyone else is. I mean, he's sort of sitting in a range not too far off that, but I still feel like I'm going to have him a lot. He's kind of in the same range where, like, him and Garrett are probably my 2 favorite wide receivers at value this year. It's really to do with this offense, Kellen Moore being an OC and starting the head coaching role and what happened in the second half of last year. Like, what I often look for when I'm looking for breakouts in a certain season is what I've seen almost at the end of a certain year before. Tyler Shuck was just like literally throwing that pill around. And what I did was I found some numbers about what Olave did when Shuck was the starting quarterback and what that would look like over an entire season. So if you extrapolate the numbers that Shuck and Olave had together, Olave would have had a season of 1,365 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 105 receptions. That would be 18.44 PPR points per game. That would be the wide receiver 5, and it would have put him 1.5 points ahead of wide receiver 6, which is George Pickens last year at 17.1, I believe. So it's such a almost value, the fact that you're getting almost like a wide receiver 5, production. I know he's got Tyson. I know he's got some other guys that are looking like they might take some, receiving work like ETN, HN, or what the fuck we're calling him. But I just feel like there's more. If you take an entire season of what he is doing, Shuck and this offense, I really do feel like Olave's underpriced in what he can truly bring. And I still feel like people are worried about that, like head injury and stuff like that. And Tyson, I really feel like Tyson's only going to actually help the offense. So yeah, I'm super in on Olave, and those numbers just sort of bear true to why me at wide receiver 8 probably shouldn't be that bullish when you look at those numbers.
I'm glad you brought me back, because as high as you are on Olave, I'm higher. I've got him at 7.
Ah, damn it.
And he finished wide receiver 6 last year over the full course of the
Yeah.
season, Tay. And here you go, going,
Yeah, exactly.
even if you just took the Shuck numbers, it would improve him even more. And we know, like, he had 140 targets last year. He's no melon. He's a good player, and it's only ever been, can he stay on the field? He's now got, from what we've seen last year, he's been able to do that, and there's no reason to think that couldn't sustain. I'm glad you dragged me back, because I did have him in that range of people to talk about, and then we just kind of moved on. I'm so glad.
I think it's more because, I think it's more because you're looking at players that you and I are kind of separate on, whereas I feel like you and I are ahead of consensus on Olave together. So
both.
it's like,
And he's
I just
12 or thereabouts across major
Yeah.
sites, and we're at 8 and 7. So it's I'm glad you grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and went, "Oi, mate."
That's all right, mate. Just thought I'd just touch base, because I was super prepared to talk about Olave and Garrett Wilson,
You
because
were
they're definitely my
we
favorite
talked about it
guys.
through the week too. You're like, you got to make sure you give me some space on Olave, mate. I'm going to box you out. So I'm glad you did, mate. And this would have been a really cartoonish thing too, because I'm not a short guy, but I'm not 6 foot. And you, if you did pick me up by the scruff of the neck, would literally look like you picked up a skinny child who's like throwing air swings, and I can't reach you underneath your outstretched arm. That's how that would have looked if you picking me up going, "We're going to talk about Olave now." Just brilliant. It's very cartoonish. Okay. Now we're through the guys who I think are the solid rocks, who aren't the kings, but are definitely worth everyone's consideration. And what we've discovered here is everybody has a different temperature on them. But from here, that can get even wilder, because we're no longer talking about people who we think are solid. We're talking about value. We're talking about, at this stage now, you're in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, and you're going to start to want to take the guy you love, regardless of what their value looks like, because you want to build a team of people that you've got the faith in. Tay, you rank just from the heart. I love this. I'm looking down this next range of guys who are in that largely consensus 20 to 40 range. And, mate, you have got some stuff sprinkled in there. Oh, my God. We're not going to talk about every guy in this range, but Terry McLaurin, we're around about right with. Jalen Waddle, we're both around about right with in this range. Jameson Williams, I'm a little higher, you're a little lower. Fair enough. But the guy in this range who I think kind of takes it the most in the neck is actually Lad McConkey.
Yeah.
Man, I've dropped him a few below consensus. I just worry he's not big enough body, and I kind of need to see it first. And I'm also worried about other parts of that offense too. You've got him down at 28. Tell me why you're behind on consensus.
I brought this up last year when everyone was just blowing smoke up Lad McConkey's ass because of how he finished in his rookie year. And again, this isn't an attack on the player. I know it seemed like it was after my first 3 seconds then, but it's more because what we were seeing in that playoff run in his rookie year was just no one else around him. They had to pass to Lad McConkey, or there was no one else. It was just a full-on attack to him. And then last year, all of a sudden, you're seeing like a resurgence of Quentin Johnson. It was Keenan Allen. They drafted Trey Harris. It was just like they had other points of contact, and it wasn't like that Ladd wasn't still technically the one. It was just that there were other points of contact that Herbert could go to if he needed to, and it wasn't just this like because the thing you just brought up with Ladd, where Harry's not a big receiver, is he needs volume. Like he's not going to be this like dominant wide receiver one, like just streaking downfield with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and stuff like that. He's just not, and he's not going to dominate opponents. He's going to need to run routes. He's going to be more like a Hunter Renfro. Like he's going to be this guy that's just like getting himself open. And the problem is, like, when you actually have decent wide receivers next to him, it just feels to me like it's all going to get spread around. And yes, people are going to talk about Mike McDaniel and, the Chargers. Every year they get smoke blown up their ass too. So that probably is why Ladd gets it. And everyone just assumed this team's just going to get better and better every single year. And that the problem is too, like, it doesn't mean that this team can't be great if Ladd isn't great in fantasy. Like, this team could just win games 20-17. Like, they have a very good defense again. I think I saw they were slated for like the 5th or 6th best defense this year. They aren't in a situation where they need to score a bunch of points. And I feel like there's a fallacy with Mike McDaniel that like it's just going to be this like Tyreek Hill like tour offense because he had to run that super specifically. Yes, they might run quicker offense, but it doesn't also mean that like Ladd's going to dominate. Like Ladd is nothing like Tyreek Hill or fucking even Jalen Waddle. Like he's got some quickness and stuff like that, but he's not a burner. He's a guy that more comes back to the ball.
Yeah, he's
So
a hands guy.
I don't know. I literally asked the question in our group chat last week, why is Quentin Johnson not being ranked the same as Ladd, if not better? Like to me, he's going to be there in 2 wide receiver sets. I just feel like he was having such a dominant year at the start of last year. Why is he not being considered? So I just ranked them back to back because I was like, it just proves to me that I'm going to take the value on Quentin Johnson, who's getting taken at wide receiver 45 or something, instead of the Ladd that's getting taken in just outside the 20s. Like, I don't understand the difference between the two. I feel like they can kind of do a lot of the same things, but if anything, Quentin Johnson has the higher upside because of the touchdown upside. So, yeah, that's my problem is I just don't see an enormous upside for Ladd, but there is also a downside. So, yeah, I don't like him in this offense as much as a lot of other people do.
I mean, and I'm old enough to remember Quentin Johnson being shit hot for a couple of weeks to start the year and shit hot to finish the end of last year and then kind of in the middle. But it says to me, like, he's not going away. Keenan Allen's gone away because he was 180 years old and, held together with duct tape and dreams. But Quentin Johnson, I'm a bit hotter than consensus on him because I quite like him as well. And I talked about him in my wide receiver column at the start of the year. But I don't have him at 27, mate. So I'm going to hats off to you. If I'm in drafts with you, I'm going to own 0 Quentin Johnson, which is really sad for me, but it's really good for you. And what I like about that is you don't need to draft him at 27 in wide receiver to get him. You could go and draft him in the mid-30s. You still eat a bunch of rounds of good value off some of the fellas who are going to be in that same range who maybe don't have the same sets of settings. So I like that you've gone into the detail just on how you've priced up Ladd McConkey and why you're down on him, but also why you're up on Quentin Johnson, because to me, they're kind of a 2-pack, and it is Quentin Johnson who bothers me about Ladd McConkey's price as well, because I'm just old enough to remember.
I think there's a chance, like, and Quentin Johnson's so low that if it doesn't work out, that's fine. Whatever you send into the fucking waivers, and I feel like there's a chance that this offense could be better than I think, and they still don't have a dominant receiver in wide receiver or tight end because they have so many options. Like I just brought up, like they have Ladd, they have Quentin Johnson, they even have Trey Harris still there, which was a highly touted prospect, out of last year. They have 2 very good pass catching tight ends in Gadsden and in Njoku. Like they almost have an embarrassment of riches where I looked at my ranking the other day. I think I'm probably too low. Like someone questioned me when I posted about having Herbert at 17 or something. And it was another one of these ones where, like with Nico Collins, where I was like, I guarantee he's not 17. It's just that I just have other guys that I'm super higher on around that range that I'm like, okay, Herbert, he might finish 11 or something. Yes, I'm wrong on it. It's still not high enough. Like I just worry about the defense and everything. And the fact they can win games 20-17, yes, there is a lot of guys he can pass to, and there's a reason why he could be higher than I say. He just doesn't give me that like feeling that he's going to go out and dominate fantasy this year. But if I'm going to, I honestly feel like if I'm wrong on anyone in this Chargers offense, it's going to be Herbert more than it's going to be McConkey.
Yeah, well, and I don't know. I think a lot's got to go right for McConkey to outrun what we're planning here. We're pretty low on him. I mean, I'm outside the top 20. I've got him at 23 or 28. But it's the QJ thing that I'm in on QJ too, but not like you are, and I love that. There's a couple of guys here who I think are a bit of fun too. We saw Zay Flowers sign this like mammoth deal, and I reckon in about 3 months' time, we're not going to think it's such a mammoth deal as other people sign. It hasn't really scared me much. I got him at 24, you're at 21. I think there's a lot to unpack on that one. And I think Rome Dunze in the same region, there's not a lot to unpack there. Consensus has in between sort of 27 and 20. 25 and 29. I see that you've got him at 22, and then you've got Luther Burden at 25. Yeah. And you're a little hotter on both of them, though. So this is where I need to talk to you.
Yep, sorry, I was just trying to butt in there because I was going to say I don't think the consensus is that Dunze will be in front of Burden, and that this is where, in general, like with fantasy in this range, I like to take the value, and in drafts, like you're going to get Dunze behind Luther Burden because Luther Burden's just getting a rocket shot up his ass at the moment, and everyone wants the new hotness, and I look at this and go, you know what, like I want a piece of this offense, but I don't understand why. It's the Quentin Johnson Lab McConkey thing. It's like I'm taking the guy that's going a little bit later than the other one in the same offense that I like. It's like, I like Caleb. Yes, I like Loveland. But, I mean, I have my own question marks even over Loveland because we looked at, like, again, we'll get to this in the tight end thing. But, like Laporta, had a massive year at the start, and then all of a sudden some of his receivers got healthier, and then he wasn't as good. There is a chance that Loveland isn't the dominant one that some people think, and it's actually in the wide receiver core. But I'm wondering whether the Dunze is just always been the guy. And then, yes, everyone wants to anoint the guy that Ben Johnson drafted, and the fact that he, is in the wide receiver position. But they also like this. Like the Bears took a Dunze as a wide receiver one in the draft as a first round pick. Sorry, they gave him a wide receiver one workload last year as part of Ben Johnson's offense, and he was very dominant. He only fell off because he was injured. Why would they all of a sudden just go away from him? DJ Moore's gone. Like I just feel like it's a 1A, 1B situation, and I've seen Dunze do it, but I really have only seen like a very small sprinkling at the end of last year of Burden doing it, and that was because Dunze was injured. So it's like, I don't know, like why am I all of a sudden just trusting that Burden's going to be the guy? I even remember saying this to Ken, like our resident fucking Bears fan. I was like, I don't know what this is going to look like between the Bears wide receivers. I do like Loveland, but he's also getting his fucking fair share of love out there. He's going to be the wide receiver, the tight end 3 off the board, pretty much by consensus. So I'm looking for value with Caleb Williams in the pass receiver game. I'm rather just take the wide receiver that's going lower. Like, why would I take Burden, who's sitting there at like wide receiver 20, when I can take a Dunze that's sometimes going between 26 to 30? Like, it's just silly to me because I don't feel like either of them should be far higher than the other.
Well, and this one depends on your website, right? Because ESPN has a Dunze, Burden. Then you go to someone like Fantasy Pros and it's Burden, a Dunze. I think it depends on your provider. And this is important. Which provider you draft on matters. We've seen this before. I got a 7th pick in a league one year where I got Christian McCaffrey, who I had as my running back too, and I felt like I'd gone over the moon. He actually had a pretty good year that year. These things matter. These things actually really matter. For us, I think, I am in the same boat. I've got Robert Dunze ahead of Letha Burden too, because again, it's that sample size thing. Like Loveland last year, I got a small sample size. I got a small sample size of Loveland. There was very specific situations why Loveland and why Burden got those opportunities for volume, and I don't think that either of those things necessarily exist in a vacuum for a whole year this year either. So it's pumped me a little bit lower on them, and I like it Dunze anyway. I drafted him, and in our league of record last year, he actually gave me a pretty good start to the year, and then I hung on to him too long. I really should have traded him at some point when he was really killing it early, and I still bear a little scar on that. But it goes to show me what a Dunze is capable of. And now that he doesn't have DJ Moore in his way, I feel much more comfortable that he's going to be that one. And they drafted him to be a one. And I think Ben Johnson knows how to unlock that because we've seen a little bit what that looks like. And I'm pretty comfortable to see that he's going to be the better receiver in that. And it's rather funny because in my own rankings, I've got DJ Moore ranked right behind Rome Odunze. Tay, he's gone to a new place in Buffalo. You don't have the same confidence that I do. I'm going to unveil this for the audience here. I've got him at 26. Consensus across major sites has him in that mid to late 20s. You got him at 42. Tay, why do you hate DJ Moore?
Just to rewind, shout out to Odunze, my best trade in an NFL Classic last year. The old Odunze to Michael Wilson trade. The absolute perfect time where Michael Wilson was at the absolute bottom dollar and Odunze was at absolute top dollar. So that's how you get your ranking from 5,000 to 1,000 for anyone out there.
Yeah, in a week and a half or whatever you did, 10 days, I don't know. Fuck.
Yeah, it was definitely one of my better moves. But anyway, over to DJ Moore. I've had this thing for a while, and I've kind of lived off it. And there's been some other dudes that have kind of came before DJ Moore, where I feel like there's a fallacy over what the Bills wide receiver one is, and this offense, and what they believe is like an amazing situation with Josh Allen. I think people think they're looking for the next Stephon Diggs and that dominant one. But the problem is of Joe Brady not only being the OC and now the head coach, this team is so predicated on the run that there really isn't this amazing fantasy situation for wide receivers or even just receivers in general. Like we've seen Kincaid, who they took super high, just turn into basically nothing. You looked at Shakir these last couple of years, who has been the perceived wide receiver one, who's been like fantasy relevant without really breaking in to be dominant. You saw was it Hopkins went there? Like it was like all these random dudes. Amari Cooper, sorry. Amari Cooper was the one that started this for me, where
so weird.
He got traded there. And I had him in a couple of dynasty leagues and I sold him straight away because all the hype was that Amari Cooper's going there. He's gone from a not great situation at Cleveland and all of a sudden he's going to Josh Allen. But the problem was in Cleveland, he was the only guy and they needed to pass. Like they had a good defense with Garrett, but they needed to pass. And they had Flacco and they actually had a pretty decent passing game. And then they go to Josh Allen, and then all of a sudden, like Josh Allen's just running in 2 touchdowns, and then they're up 21-0, and then they're giving it to fucking James Cook for like 2.5 quarters, and it's like there isn't the need for a dominant wide receiver one as much as you think. And then all of a sudden, it's all these randos, like fucking Cole Beasley was getting in there and getting touchdowns. Like it's always shared around in the wide receiver core, and I don't think DJ Moore at this part of his career, you saw it with the Bears last year, is dominant enough to just like take over it and go, this is mine. Like he couldn't do it at the Bears last year. I don't see why all of a sudden he does it at the Bills this year. So I'm super low on him. I had him still in a league and I traded into Brendan Long. Shout out Brendan, who I offered him a trade when DJ Moore was first getting rumored to go there. I offered him a trade and he declined it, and then about a month later he sent me the exact same trade for him, so I accepted it. He's like, stuff it, let's just do this. So that was a showcase of perseverance from my point.
So my case for DJ Moore is I did a quick list of who's the best quarterback he's ever played with. I'm like, well, he hasn't played with him yet, but it's Josh Allen by a country mile. And I had a look around the rest of the offense. I'm like, and where do all the yards go? And they kind of don't have anywhere to go. Josh Allen throws for about 3,500 yards, just fine. That's functional for a quarterback in this day and age. He just runs for 600 yards, and that's where a lot of his fantasy volume comes from. But he does have passing volume. It's got to go somewhere, and there isn't somebody who's kind of siphoning it up like Diggs used to. And I've never believed that Khalil Shakir is Stephon Diggs. I've just never believed that. I reckon DJ Moore's the closest thing they've had to it since then, and I just think that if the ball's going to go somewhere, it's probably going to head that way, and he's probably the best thing that Josh Allen's had since Stephon Diggs as well. So I just kind of feel like there's a few things that line up all right here. And I mean, I'm not selling the farm. I've got him at 26 or 27. I'm saying, mate, this guy will be in flex consideration for me in most draft leagues, and he's probably not a consideration for me in SuperCoach Classic. But like, I'm not selling the farm on him. There's guys behind him who I'm much more bullish on as well, who I just think, well, that we haven't spoken about yet, who I think, well, I'd rather stake a claim on that than on DJ Moore. But I'm also, oh man, I'm just not nearly as out on him as you, because even with your being out on him as you are, you've got Khalil Shakir at 49, and there's kind of no other passing target ahead of him. So it's like, well, he's going to throw 3,500 yards somewhere. And I don't know. I don't believe it's tight ends. I don't think James Cook's eaten it all. So it's got to go somewhere. It's probably DJ Moore.
That's my problem though with Diggs. Like he didn't really have it too. Like not the yards wasn't going anywhere else. Whereas I feel like with this team it can just get shared out overall. And that's why I have DJ Moore and Shakir pretty close to each other, because I feel like there's a chance they could all just have like 900 to 1,000 yards, and it's just not really that fantasy relevant. It's like just a bit of Shakir one week, a bit of DJ Moore one week, a bit of Kincaid one week, a bit of James Cook and, Ty Johnson and shit like that. Like it's just, I don't feel like this team relies on anyone. They could just, anyone, any week.
Yeah,
So I
it's
just
kind of
don't
felt
have
like this is
any
the
confidence.
closest he's got to a guy he can rely on for a couple of years. And we've probably talked about DJ Moore too long. But anyway, I like that we're so polarized, and it bears talking about, because the next guy we're not polarized on at all. You love Carnell Tate. Take it away. Carnell
Oh,
tight.
my tater tot. My tater tot. Oh my God. It's the best part about this is I have legitimate footage to show people that this isn't Titans bias. I went on G'day Gridiron before the draft and talked about the rookies upcoming in the draft, and Tate was my favorite wide receiver by a mile. I actually said a big thing that I actually felt like the Patriots should have traded up and given Drake Mayhem, because I felt like they were paired perfectly with the deep ball. Some of the stats on tape were just absurd. Like I could not believe that. Like a lot of the guys were good in intermediate areas, but none of the other guys were good at both. Like Tate had a 17.7, I believe, yards per catch, but had no drop catches in the entire season. You only normally see no drop catches from like a Wandale, like a guy that's like catching almost like running back routes or slant routes and like really close to the line of scrimmage. Whereas like Tate was like not dropping anything, even like 20 yards downfield. Like it was like crazy, and that proves his separation and the fact that he's getting away from the DBs. Like he was to me the clear best wide receiver in this class, and the fact he goes to the Titans and he fills a clear need for a what I believe is a quarterback on the rise, needing a guy like him who not only like, he fills the need everywhere. He's good in the intermediate routes. He's good long. He catches everything. Like, and you pair him with like a Wandale, like that works perfectly because he kind of fits in those gaps that like all the defenses are eventually going to have to worry about. So Tate's going to have reasons to be out there and like getting open. And I don't know. I just think this offense with Brian Daboll at OC, I think he's an overqualified OC. I've been talking about that the whole time. The fact that he can focus on the offense, like people talking about Salah being a bad head coach. He's never had a guy like Daboll running the other side where he could just focus on what he does best. So I just think with him running Cam Ward, like he came out and said that he wanted Cam Ward for the Giants when he was the head coach, and that makes a massive difference to me, that he really, really saw what he wanted to run out of him. And the fact that you have seen nothing but positive things. Like when Treylon Burks went to the Titans, it was nothing but fucking negative stuff the entire time. And it was right. Like, it's not like it was like negative for no reason. Like, he was just terrible and he had asthma and all this shit just went wrong. Yes, he was the like product of a bad AJ Brown trade, but that there was nothing but negative. But I have seen nothing but positivity between Ward and Tate this entire preseason. And it just pairs with everything I saw from him in his senior year at college. So I am super, super pumped.
Yeah, if we kind of look back at this and they end up as a version of something kind of like what Matt Ryan and Julio Jones were for the Falcons through that run. Hey, doesn't have to be even that successful, but just in terms of just those two live together, Like, I can imagine a world where that's the case, and it's going to piss me off for the next dozen years being a Jags fan. But yeah, I like Carnelto quite a lot as well, and I think this is the first rookie we've talked about. He's comfortably in the mid-20s. I think he's the kind of guy you wouldn't want to roll out as your wide receiver 2 week 1. Totally get that. But he is probably a guy who you may have the confidence to be able to roll out as a wide receiver 2 later in the year, or he may even be good enough to match your wide receiver 1's numbers later in the year, depending on what you can pick up in the draft. If you haven't got one of the absolute kings, to me, he's kind of got the potential of, and I can't believe I'm going to say this name, but do you remember that rookie season Kenny Golladay had?
Yeah, oh my God. I think Lions fans definitely do.
Yeah,
Holy
I,
shit.
I had him as my flex in a 16-team league. I could just trot him out as a wide receiver too, but I didn't need to because I'd done some trades through the year, and I ended up with Michael Thomas and Antonio Brown somehow in a 16-team league, and then I had freaking Kenny Golladay as my flex. So, and this was rookie Kenny Golladay. It's just like it's kind of mad to think, yeah, you're getting this guy at a range where that can be that for you in a 10-team league. Fantastic. I really like Carnell Tate. The guys behind here, and I'm not going to spend any time on any of them, is DK Metcalf. I just like him a little bit more than consensus because I trust that the Steelers' pass blocking is a little bit better than it was last year. I don't love Aaron Rodgers being the guy there, but it is what it is. And for that reason, Michael Pittman is ranked right near him. I would not be bothered if people skip DK Metcalf, take Michael Pittman. I get it. The other guys in this range, guys like, this is where you get Cortland Sutton not terribly far behind Jalen Waddle. And I love Cortland Sutton, so I'm going to be an apologist there. I don't mind taking him if you miss out on Jalen Waddle. I think those two, while they're separated by a good 2 rounds, actually you get a one-up closer than people think. And then you start getting names like Marvin Harrison and Mike Evans. And I know Mike Evans has had a bit of rest through the week, and there was concerns around him with injury. I don't think that's going to be a mad problem because we've seen Ricky Pearsall is now going to be out for the season, and Big Fat Debo Samuel has resigned there. So it's going to be Mike Evans and Mike Evans and Mike Evans and Mike Evans. I'm okay with that. And considering you're getting him in the mid-30s, no dramas. Now, let's read to the conversation with Jordan Tyson, who is the other great rookie who's at New Orleans. You mentioned him very briefly before in the Chris Olave conversation. How do you feel about Jordan Tyson? He's currently going in that sort of 30s range. You like him?
I do. Again, it's probably me being very bullish on the Saints offense. I don't think the defense is going to be amazing. I love Kellen Moore as the head coach. Obviously, being an XOC, they run a very quick offense, so there's going to be a lot more plays than there probably is in a lot of the other teams. So yeah, I just think this offense is set up for success, and you've also got the built-in upside that if say Olave was to go down, then you just got Tyson stepping into a wide receiver 1 position anyway. So I do think even as the wide receiver 2, there's reason for upside. Like Shuck was throwing for a couple of times he threw for over 300 yards, and I think that's going to be closer to the norm this year. I really do feel like Shuck's going to be just airing that thing out. So I think even as the wide receiver 2 on the team, he's got upside. Honestly, I just think there's a chance he's the guy that maybe even chimes in for a few touchdowns. But like I said, the fact that he can have standalone value as the wide receiver 2 with the upside that if Olave misses a couple of games, I'm taking a shot on the wide receiver 2 in a good offense. So yeah, I'm just putting all my chips on the Saints this year.
Yeah, he and Tate could be league winners. This is the great thing about this range, the value range, that you can just find a league winner with your 7th and 8th round pick. I also like Jordan Tyson around about what consensus is, and it's just, hey, I'm not as bullish on the Saints as you are, but I do understand they've got a top 10 offensive line in terms of pass protection. That's worth thinking about, and also in a division that's not terribly scary for defenses. So I'm 100% cool with that, and I just think they'll probably need to score enough points to keep that thing ticking along. We're starting to get out of what I call the value range and into the upside shots, Tay. And there's one down here who I would consider to be an upside shot because consensus has him ranked closer to 40. And you've got him ranked with a number that begins with a 2 in front of it. Plays for the Colts. Little speedy white guy named Alec Pierce. He reminds me of that's a young Matty C, this guy, actually. I'm not going to blow the cover off what number you've got on him. But do you want to talk about Alec Pierce and then what you like about him? And then maybe reveal where you've got him. Because I don't know, this all seems like it's really set up.
Yeah, he's another one that I've definitely taken in mock drafts. I do feel like he's getting like put into this basket of being just this deep threat because of what he's done so far. But I just feel like sometimes in the NFL you got to read the tea leaves, and the fact that they've paid this guy so much money, I really don't feel like that's what he is this year. Like they've obviously let go of Michael Pittman. I feel like they only do that if they believe that Alec Pierce has a better kind of skill set than what he's shown because they don't really have like outside of Tyler Warren in the receiving game, like Josh Downs really hasn't proven himself enough to like sort of take over the old Pittman role. And you don't pay Pierce if you don't feel like he can do more. So I'm just looking at this team like I'm seeing all these people being high on Downs. What I'm looking at this team is I'm high on Warren and Pierce, and I actually am not high on Downs. Like I really do feel like it's getting funneled to two guys, and then you can obviously chuck in Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield as well. I just think that you do not pay this much money for a guy like Alec Pierce if you think he's only a deep threat, because that is really, really bad business. I think they believe he's got more to his game. This is more a shot on, especially where he's going in drafts. It's not like I'm like overpaying for him in like the third or fourth round or something. Like I'm probably going to get him as like my wide receiver 4 or something on a team. I just think that way that this team looks at him and has paid him is like they believe he's got a different skill set than what they've shown. He's got the deep ball. That's great if it's there. But I do believe that he can do both. And it's kind of similar to what I brought up with Carnell Tate, where if you've got a guy that they can trust on both sides, I just think that means upside, and it also gives him a floor because of the targets that he can get to the intermediate routes. So yeah, I really like him and Warren in this passing
You have
offense.
him ranked at wide receiver 26. And to me, that's not saying, I'm going to go draft him as my 26th wide receiver. It's saying,
Yeah,
this is the potential I see for him. I'll get him hotter than the range. He's going as sort of a mid wide receiver 4. You probably in some leagues pick him up as a wide receiver 5, but you can project that you think there is a world where he is going to be so much more valuable than that. And I kind of love that that's the shot
yeah,
you're taking on him.
yep, 100%.
Yeah. There's 2 questions I have left for you before we start to go for the absolute bottom of the barrel stuff. But Green Bay, we need to talk about Green Bay. They've got the worst pass blocking offensive line in all of football. It's nice that it's not the Titans for a change, but this is true. It is Green Bay. I have seen wide receivers scattered fucking everywhere for Green Bay. I don't think any analyst knows what to do with them. I feel like where I put them, I don't really know what I want to do with them either, because I've put Jaden Reed and Christian Watson in my top 50. I haven't included Matthew Golden in my top 50, either of you. But then, mate, like we're 40-ish on them. Is one of them going to emerge from that? Make sense of this.
I think it's a hard one because like I feel like some of them will have massive games, but I just don't trust them on a year-to-year basis. Like you'll have Jaden Reed, like he had that game, was in Brazil or something that he like had like the massive rushing touchdown. He's kind of like Debo-esque where he does like all this weird gadgety shit. Yes, they lost Dobbs, so it's essentially, and you've got Kraft coming off the ACL tear. There's a chance that there's like a consolidation of targets, but I don't know. There just never seems to be any consistency to any of them. I'd feel like if any of them is going to break out, it's still Christian Watson, but he just can't stay on the field. And it's like he can't get any connection with Love. And like you brought up, they have the worst pass blocking in the league.
It's awful.
That makes me think that they're just going to run Josh Jacobs again. This is why I still rank Josh Jacobs at 13, even though they don't have an amazing offensive line, because their offensive line's still better at rush blocking than it is pass blocking. So, and their defense again with Micah Parsons, I know he's coming off his injury himself. They're still going to be very good. So it's like they're not going to have to score heaps to win games either. Like, I don't know. There are just so many reasons why I believe again that I don't feel like any of them are going to break out. It's just going to be again like all of them will have like 1 or 2 great games, and they'll just like even out to like wide receiver 30 at the end of the year. And it's like, great, that was amazing for fantasy.
It's Jaden Reed is also this wonderful picture of health, isn't he? Like, I like how we're like, Matthew Golden hasn't really shown much. Tucker Kraft is hurt. It's like, but the 2 guys we were ranking also pitiful at staying healthy. And then you throw in the offensive line thing. You throw in Jordan Love has not been a fantasy superstar at any stage of his career. And mate, we cover in the country with green and gold. It's easy to support something that's green and gold. And here we are with these receivers way out. I mean, I just don't know what to do with them. I can see that the fantasy world doesn't know what to do with them. And someone is probably going to emerge as useful somehow. I just don't know how you put trust in any of it. We are clearly not, and I'm okay with that. The one other question I had for you before we get into the wildest of wild is that, and you mentioned this a little earlier just with the Titans thing, is that you've got Wan'Dale Robinson far ahead of projections across major sites. He is in the 40s everywhere. You've got him right on the edge of 30. And, mate, there's no surprise to me that you like him because, well, I like him a lot too. I just don't like him the way that you like him. But what is it that's driving you all that confidence up? Because, I mean, there was no bigger spruiker of Wan'Dale last year than me. I had him in every league I could find him. His situation's different now. Why are you so in?
Well, you brought up how you were a little bit worried about Connell Tate early, and I was about to sort of touch on it quickly myself, where someone asked me what they thought the Tate's like yearly projection would be, and I really kind of felt like off the bat, like I would rather Wan'Dale in redraft than I probably would Tate, like where they're going, because I really feel like Wan'Dale is just going to be on the field all the time, and he's going to be the safety blanket for Ward. I don't think he's going to have a high upside. Like, I think he's just going to be this guy that, like, in a PPR league, you're going to get 10 points out of most weeks and just be happy with it. And it's going to end up spurting him out at that, like, wide receiver 30. So I think he's going to be valued, but I don't think he's got a high upside either. So he's going to be enough initially to almost, like, kind of stunt Tate's upside himself. So that's why I don't really have them too far apart. Like, I think I had Tate at like 24 and Wan'Dale like in the low
31.
30s. So like, if anything, I'm probably higher on Wan'Dale for redraft than I am Tate, because I feel like he just represents more value in that range. So it's really what you're after. Are you after a guy that you're shooting for the moon in that spot? Then it's probably not Wan'Dale. But I just felt like he's the kind of guy that's just going to get 5-6 receptions a game and sit in that like 5 for 50, 5 for 60 range every game and just give you back way better value than you drafted him at. So that's really how I'm looking at Wan'Dale. I'm not looking at him like this breakout star, because honestly, even if like Tate got injured, I wouldn't be surprised if then Ridley kind of was the one that then took over the high upside stuff, and then Wan'Dale just stayed the same. So it's not like that I even see a path for Wan'Dale to then break out. It's more, I just think he's the consistency of the wide receiver position for the Titans.
Yeah, and like if we ranked at 51, Calvin Ridley's my 51. I love Calvin Ridley still. I'm ill. I'm a very unwell man. I don't have a question on this one, Tay. I'm just going to tell you that you're wrong.
Right.
We haven't talked about Jags wide receivers, and I'm saving this to last because Parker Washington is clearly the wide receiver on this team. You've got these guys, both Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington. You've got them ranked sort of back to back, and you've got Jacoby Myers in front of Parker Washington, 34 and 35. Mate, you couldn't be more wrong. Parker Washington at 30, Jacoby Myers at 40. That's how it's going to be, mate. I'm just telling you, this is not a question. You're just wrong.
So, mate, I'm trying to eat cold dinner at the moment. Like we're running a little bit long.
This is the commitment you have to the podcast. You will get
That's
yours
the
in a
thing, mate.
cold.
Yeah, when you cut to me a little bit quicker than I was kind of hoping, you just get
Sorry,
a hit
mate.
chewing sound. So that's just how it works.
Apologies, but you're wrong. And now you look like an idiot, and you're wrong.
That's the professionalism of this podcast. But
I'm a great host.
The Jags are another one where it's hard, where it's like I just feel like everyone culminated together just helps Trevor. It's like it's really hard to sort of differentiate all the wide receivers there because they've got so many. I've always liked Myers. I've always been higher on him than I think anyone has been. I almost see him in that Wan'Dale like role where I just feel like he's so consistent at the wide receiver position without a huge upside. It's like he had that ridiculous run at the Pats where he didn't score a touchdown. It was just always volume, but never for those like high fantasy stats. And then they all lost their mind when he finally had that touchdown. And even at the Raiders, like the Raiders was like, you'd see him at the top of the targets charts almost every game he played, but he just never had those stats that made you care. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised again if he's just like Lawrence's safety blanket. Like they've given him money, like they traded for him. Like that's what worries me about like Parker Washington, I think, if you look at him on tape, looks the best. But I just worry that, like, there's a bunch of, like, 8 or 7 out of 10 wide receivers on this team, and it's hard to differentiate a guy that's actually a dominator. Like, we thought BTJ was that guy, and then all of a sudden he just got usurped last year. We thought Travis Hunter was getting drafted to be that, and then they might be using him more as a cornerback or something this year. Like, I just feel like all these guys almost like work together to be one really good wide receiver, and it's just going to be Parker Washington one game. It's going to be, you know, Myers just always getting the Wandale type stuff, and it's just that's why I had Myers not that far off like a Wandale. It's like I just feel like he's just going to have volume, and then you're just going to get random games out of everyone else.
2 Titans wide receivers before your first Jags wide receiver. You're just
I
wrong,
know,
mate. It's okay. It's okay. Just look at yourself in the mirror tomorrow morning and just go, "Mate,
which is
Matty's
insane.
right
It
and
isn't.
I'm wrong."
It's insane because, like, I would I would pick the Jags to have a better offense a million times out of a million, and I would pick Lawrence to have a better season than Ward, but it's like, it's so weird because it's all about consolidation of targets. It's like they have just way more guys to feed at the Jags than
Yeah,
they
the
do the
ecosystem's
Titans, like
healthier.
yeah, it is, and it just helps Trevor. Like, I just feel like Trevor's gonna be the main recipient of all of it, and, unless there's injuries to, like, 2 of them, we're not gonna know, and that's where I might try and throw some trade targets or trade offers out there, like, if I see that, like, Myers and Washington are on their own or something.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting year in our, our little division, mate, AFC South. Mate, I have no more questions for you aside from just whether you want to chuck in an Easter egg of an upside shot. My kind of like last guy to pick would be if I've managed to not take a Jags receiver anywhere and just Travis Hunter is my like last round pick because I don't know. There's still something that allures me about him, and he's going to cost me nothing. Like he's going to be wide receiver 72, and I can just pick him up with my last pick. Is it kind of a last pick guy that you kind of like a little bit of a cut of his jib?
I've got 2, and they're literally 2 guys that I picked in Dynasty, like, 2 years ago as, like, guys I just really, really liked. Like, I liked all the stats. They were very, like, Puka Nakua-like, where they didn't have, like, outrageously quick stats or anything that, like, put them in the, like, 1st or 2nd round of drafts, but they
Yeah.
had all the intangibles, and they've just ended up with better situations on their teams now. One's the Malik Washington for Miami. He to me, he's been waiting for a bigger opportunity, and yes, like, he's definitely not the prototypical one in the team, but I just feel like if Malik Willis is better at passing than, like, anyone thinks, and there's teams passing for, like, anywhere near 200 yards, I feel like Malik Washington could soak up almost all of this. Like, there's no one else really. It's a couple of third-round picks, in the draft trying
Yeah.
to compete next to him and, like, Greg Dulcich at the tight end position, and it's really just Achane out of backfield. Like, I don't know. I just feel there's a chance that he's far better than where he's going. Like, I've sort of ranked him in the 40s where he's going well outside of that. He's a bit of a deeper shot where he's kind of similar again in that like Myers and Wandale thing where it's like I don't think he's like an upside shot where you're all of a sudden going to beat his ADP by like 50. Like it's like I just feel like you're going to get value out of him as the wide receiver 1 for the Dolphins. So I like him, and another guy I like's Jalen McMillan. I've really liked him ever since he's come out of college for the Bucks. You know, you lose Mike Evans, Godwin's coming off the injury. Egg Booker obviously sort of fell off at the end of last year. I know he's still going to be the one. I like Egg Booker, but there's at least like a range of outcomes where Jalen McMillan comes in as the wide receiver 2, or at least like the wide receiver 3 next to a hampered Godwin. And then you've got like Baker with very good passing offensive line where they could be throwing a lot this year. So yeah, I just really like those 2 as sort of deeper shots and just guys that let's call it bias out of college in Dynasty that I liked them and now they've got opportunity. So why would I not still like them, given that they've got opportunity?
No, I like that. I think probably the last one I'd throw in there too is like the Trey Tucker. Like, we haven't talked about a Las Vegas Raider tonight, and he's probably going to end up top of their pile, whatever that's worth. And it's not like Kirk Cousins is a complete bum, but I mean, also beware of the Kirk Cousins you're going to get there. And I don't know that it will be a long time before we see Mendoza under center there, but either of them are going to have to throw it to someone. So just kind of keep Trey Tucker circled. He's clearly not going to be Brock Bowers, but that ball will need places to go. So that ecosystem a lot more fragile. This is why we're not talking about a lot of Dolphins or Raiders tonight. Hey, Tay, I reckon we've done wide receiver a lot of credit. We're going to have a good 100-odd minutes of stuff for folks to sift through over the course of their preparation. Mate, I don't know. I'm still kind of... My appetite's really wet for when this NFL Classic SuperCoach drops, and I feel like that might be the next time we touch base. It might be before we do the tight end show. We might be talking Classic again, so I'm really hoping.
I feel like that's kind of half of why this podcast has gone so long, because we're so on a high about Classic, opening soon. Wide receiver in general is such a, like, generally if we do like rankings, it's probably deeper than any other position, just because like we always talk about like the easiest position to find if you need to is wide receiver 2 on your team, because there's just so many guys that can step up, and it's just there's always a lot more value than there probably is at running back, and obviously quarterback and things like that. So yeah, it's always the funnest position, I think, to find value, because there's always diamonds in the rough. So, and there's always situations that change. So yeah, I'm not surprised that it took us a while to get through this. Yeah, there is so much rough.
So much rough, yeah. A lot of diamonds. And mate, I'm now keen, because I do believe that the next time we're going to get together is going to be likely to do with SuperCoach. We've got a fun thing to do for when that lands. You've been talking about this for a couple of days now. I'm pretty psyched about it. So hopefully that'll be the next time we touch base. And if it isn't, we still got tight end to go through. And I've got some stuff on tight end, mate. It's going to be fantastic. But in the meantime, we're going to get out of here. We've got Manjot Melly from Pastry Press NFL releasing all kinds of stuff in the next couple of days, including he was talking to the guys from Capture the Flag team called the Intercepticons, which I love, by the way. Great name. Capture the Flag, biggest flag tournament in this part of the world. Flag football, of course, a pathway to Olympic glory for 2028. If you want to get involved, you can probably find a flag team near you. Also, we're talking NFL, and Manjot's got a lot of preseason previews, as well as Coach Brad from our mates at G'day Gridiron. By the way, catch G'day Gridiron this week. It is an excellent episode. It comes out midweek every single week. It comes out on a Wednesday or a Thursday. You cannot miss them. They are fantastic, and they've got a really great dive. Really great dive into the pre-NFL season stuff. Go and catch them. In the meantime, though, Tay, we'll be back. Don't know whether it'll be next week or whether it'll be earlier than that. We'll see, mate. We'll see. But I am fired up. This season is coming like a freight train.
If you think I'm fired up for this, when Classic releases, when we do that podcast, I'm going to be fucking losing my shit. So I hope everyone looks forward to that.
Raise the roof, brother. We'll get out of here. We'll give everyone a bit of time to digest all of this, and we'll catch them when we see them. It'll either be next Friday or before then. We'll see. But in the meantime, all the best, SuperCoaches. Hooroo!
Hooroo. Thank you, SuperCoaches.
SuperCoach Halfa. Get your edge, get it faster. Taylor leads, Matty's laughter. NFL SuperCoach Halfa. NFL SuperCoach Halfa. Get your edge, get it faster.